I reviewed the original Auralic Aries G1 and I wasn't very complimentary about it, so this is going to be an interesting one, not only for you but for me as well. But I want to go through some of the interesting points of this streamer, not ones that have been covered before in other YouTube reviews, so I'm not going to make this an absolutely inclusive review of everything. If you want to check out a little bit more about this product if I get round to it, check out the review on my website. It's in the card above, the link to it. I can't remember if it's the top right or the top left. But in brief though, this is a transport only base model from Auralic. It's the cheapest one you can get. If you buy it just as the streamer alone, it's £2,700, $3,250. Or if you buy the one with the 2TB hard drive installed, £3,100 or $3,650. You can rip a CD while playing it or just rip it, or you can play a CD through the Auralic and use it as a sort of quasi CD player. But the £400 price of this solid state 2TB drive in it isn't particularly good value for money when you consider it's just a 2.5-inch SSD drive of the type like a Samsung Evo, which commercially available from PC companies retail for about £150. That said though, you can actually buy a mount kit for the G1.1 that comes with fixings to fit the mount holes inside the case. You also get a SATA cable with the mount kit. It costs I think £100 in the UK. You then fit a solid state drive of your choice, but it has to be one that draws 1 amp or less, I've been told, like those Samsung Evo drives. And then you go in the Lightning DS app that's proprietary to Auralic products and then reformat the drive or format the drive. Conceivably doing this, you could save around £200, maybe a little bit less. That might not be an issue for some because the overall price of the product is quite high. It would be for me. This is actually a benefit when you consider that some products from brands like Inuos, they don't allow you to fit your own drives in their players, I don't think still. The Aries G1.1 is nicely made with anodized aluminium and this silver metallic high mass base which aids stability. If you run your fingers or knuckles over the surface of this streamer, because of this fine density aluminium, it does actually white mark, but it's not an issue, and I'm not making it an issue because it does clean off very, very easily. The display of this streamer is okay, but it's not as sharp or as vibrant with colours as the much cheaper Eversolo DMP A6. That costs £760 to this streamer around £3,000. And also I don't like this small settings text as you go through the menus. It's not helpful for myopic people like me. I have to keep taking my contact lenses out and putting them back in because I can't see the text up close. On the back of this streaming transport, there are optical, RCA coaxial, AES EBU and USB digital outputs to your DAC. Input-wise, an RJ45 Ethernet port and a USB-A port for connection of external hard drives. You'll see these two aerial connections for tri-band Wi-Fi. It can deal with UPnP, Internet Radio, AirPlay 2, Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, and it's Roon ready. Initially when I started using this streamer, I thought that the Lightning DS app that Auralic use isn't very stable because I couldn't get the player to be found in Roon. And I subsequently traced it down to the fact that although I was using the USB output setting in the Lightning DS app, I didn't have a USB cable between the Auralic and my DAC, so it's not found in Roon. This is a bit of a vagary of this product because other streamers I don't tend to find this, particularly the Eversolo or the Blue Sound Node. You don't actually have to have a connection between the streamer and the DAC in order for it to be found in Roon. So just be aware of that. I know you might think, well, wouldn't that be obvious if you're connecting a cable to your DAC anyway, but you might not if you're thinking this is necessarily a network issue. Whilst I think that that could have been covered off in the manual, the biggest issue with the app itself is the fact that Auralic still don't offer an Android app for Lightning DS. You can apparently use mConnect and Bubble UPnP as workarounds, affirming Auralic's view that they only have one app in iOS so that they can concentrate on offering a really, really good app isn't a very convincing point, and a point that I think is going to be one that they can really make, because obviously people are going to want to use Lightning DS on Android devices, and a lot of people use Android. It's a bit like, I think, if Tesla said, we only want our cars to be charged at BP service stations because BP offer customer service that is what we want. At the same time, you would alienate all the people that want to charge their cars more consistently throughout the country. This is an open sounding, very clean transport with a big soundstage and very good at layer separation. This is its modus operandi and the traits that are most obvious to me when I change it between different streamers. It is an improvement, as far as I'm concerned, over the original Aries G1, in the sense of the kit that I use it with, because it's impressing me more. And whilst I don't have them side by side, I can say that because I used, as I say, similar kit in the last review. But then it really ought to be better, considering it's about another £1,000 in price. With the Aries G1.1 into an Alna S9C Pro DAC and SC1 clock, then going on to my Hagel H390 and PMC 2523 speakers, this particular streamer has a more open presentation, greater staging and more space than the same USB output into the same DAC combo from a Eversolo DMP A6. It's also slightly harder hitting with bass, and I noticed this when I played my test track DeLorean Dynamite from Todd Terrier's It's Album Time album that I'm always playing. In this sense, I'd say it's about a 10% improvements in performance in my system. I know it's always hard to put percentage improvements, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what I experienced. I've got at the moment a Volumio Revo streaming transport, and I'm using it with an Alu Shanti linear power supply. The total price is £1,000 and it's about a third the price of the Auralic. I'm using the Revo as a Roon endpoint in Roon. And I would say that I think that the Auralic just about shades it into this £10,000 PMC Hagel Alna system. There's a sense of greater space and openness in the sound, but it's not huge, and it only is a few percentage point increases in performance. It's not like a massive change, certainly one that isn't massive for an extra £2,000 over the Revo Shanti combo. So that's my angle on this video, in that, do you spend on these pricey streaming transports into a system like mine? And my answer to that is no, when I know that spending more on the DAC in all my practical experience of reviewing gets you more. At the moment we have a £1,200 DAC and clock combo, which by the way I think slightly improves on that of a Chord Cutest, into a £3,000 streaming transport. But what if you put something like a £4,000 Chord Hugo TT2 with a Blue Sound node, or that Alu Revo combination with something like a Denafrips Venus 2 12th? I actually tried the original Venus 2, but I expect this new model to be the improver, or at least similar. And my point is, both of these systems are a similar price to the Alna combo with the G1.1. And the answer is going to be quite a bit better sounding. And I could extrapolate that to a number of other DAC streamer combos that I've tried. I still think that people think the mantra junk in, junk out so far as streaming transports goes is a good one. But again, in my practical experience, I've not found that to be the case, in that good streaming transports, well designed, don't necessarily need to be expensive in most of the systems that we use them in. And I asked in a poll on my YouTube channel, at what point does the total cost of your DAC, amp and speakers mean that you drop £3,000 on a streaming transport like this Auralic? Around 55% said £10,000 systems or more, but a third said £5,000 or £3,000 systems, which is crazy if you think about it, to start pairing a £3,000 transport with a £3,000 system, when if you consider that experimenting with different combinations is what you've got to do, and also where we know that spending on amplification and speakers is getting you much more. A speaker is a transducer, it's converting electrical energy into physical energy, so it's going to have the most impact on the chain. Obviously it doesn't apply to pricey products all the time, because price doesn't necessarily go with performance, but it's a reliable indicator of it. But what makes people believe that you need to have this pure transport idea? Is it other reviewers shilling the gear to make them believe that they need it? Is it them thinking this idea that you have to have a good source at the starting point? Or is it people just thinking maybe, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, that if I spend on something, I'm expecting it to be good and that it is going to be good? Where I think that this Auralic does make perfect sense is if you use it in a system about £20,000 to £25,000. I've actually heard it in a system comprising a Cord Dave, ATC SCM40 speakers and exposure monoblocks, and it was very nice indeed. It makes sense because its diminishing return forms a smaller proportion of the overall system cost, and also the differences to cheaper transports are going to be revealed more. But realise, and I reiterate this point again, this product makes sense in much more expensive systems than people realise. It's a bit like someone that goes out and puts £6,000 or £7,000 wheels on a brand new Porsche. Unto itself, that would be crazy, but obviously they're spending 70, 80, 90 grand on a brand new car like that Porsche. You can see the point I'm making. At a minimum, you might think that the G1.1 will work well in a system comprising, say, a Denafrips Pontus 2 12th DAC costs around £2,000, £3,000-ish PMC speakers, and say a Hagel H190, £3,250. That puts a system value around just over £11,000. But that misses the opportunity cost of what you can get elsewhere. And I've reviewed all these brands of products, so I know what I'm talking about in this respect. And if you say paired a Denafrips Terminator DAC with, say, a Blue Sound Node, or you paired a Cord Hugo TT2 with this Revo Shanty pairing that I've been talking about, it would blitz the Pontus G1.1 pairing. And the reason why it would do that is because the Hagel PMC pairing is good enough to reveal the differences in the DAC over the transport. Another way around this, I think, is to buy an amplifier that just grips the PMCs better and put the expenditure that you're going to spend on this Auralic on just a better amp, the 390 rather than the 190, or if you want to save some money, go for that brilliant Kinky Studio EX M1 Plus amplifier that I've raved about. Crazy good for the money. You might be thinking, well, how can I actually empirically show that this is the case? Well, you know what? You've just got to go out there, be suspicious of reviews, and make your own mind up based upon experiencing products. And I think most people can think or believe what I'm saying is true based upon common sense and their own experiences of these types of streaming transport. So on that score, I'm maybe not breaking anything new to you. And I may be going through this particular review simply and without reference to too many technicals, but I've always thought that reviewing and buying hi-fi based solely on your own experiences and nothing else getting in the way is always the best thing to do. Thanks very much for watching. On the back of this streaming transport there are optical RCA coaxial, can't even get my words out now. If you want to check out a written article on this streamer, silver metallic metal base for stability, bollocks.